Good evening, everybody. This is Captain Tinsley, Salty Abandon, with another Salty podcast, where it's always a great day to talk about sailing. And this is episode 22. And we have a very special guest tonight. This is the boat girl, Melanie Neal. She grew up on a sailboat and then wrote a book about it. So without further ado, I'm going to bring her out right now. Hello, Melanie.
Hi.
How are you?
Excellent.
Well, good. Thank you for doing this. I sure do appreciate it. You came highly recommended by Leslie Allen of Island Packet Yachts.
I love her. She's one of my favorite people.
Oh my gosh, she's new to me, but I love her already.
It was a great interview last week.
Yeah, you were the only person that chimed in. Sometimes we get a lot of people commenting. You were the only one, so we appreciate you doing that. So, there we go. You're back. Okay. So let me just throw this up real quick and show people the book. Okay. So you wrote Boat Girl, and basically just a few facts here. You grew up on a boat. This is you when you were just a little baby, right? Right. And that's your dad. So you were on the boat before you were born in your mom's womb. And this is the boat you grew up on. And say the name of the boat.
Chenu.
Chenu. Okay.
So it's French for our home, but it looks like cheese nose. And people always call this on the VHF saying cheese nose. we got a little, tease a little bit for that.
Okay. Well, we have more pictures, but I'll save them for later. So basically 0 to 18 is how you describe it, that you were on that boat. What's your first memory?
To be honest, I'm actually not, and people question this all the time. I am not kidding when I remember going to the Gulf Star factory in Florida and still being in my mom's tummy and like just having this sense of, I swear to God, I had like little snippets of, being on the plane and it's impossible to remember that far. So I think I've kind of added some detail in and filled in a little bit, but I
choose to believe it.
Yeah. One of my first memories that I know is legit is sailing in the Chesapeake Bay and sailing into Annapolis and telling my sister who was 2 years younger, that Annapolis is where you went to get ice cream. So yes, so that was very exciting.
Yeah, because your mom didn't really care for you eating ice cream, did she?
No, she was very, very smart. She was very smart nutritionally. Of course, did we listen? No, but
any chance you could get, right?
It was a special Annapolis treat.
Okay. So I started reading the book and I'm at chapter 11. And one of the questions I have was Gulf Star. Where is that factory?
So this is actually a pretty cool thing, especially since, you featured Island Packet last week. There is a whole tradition of boat builders on the west of Florida. And it's like when Leslie was saying people from the original factory came back and worked for them. A lot of those people worked for Gulf Star. So around Clearwater, there was Gulf Star, Morgan, Irwin, Island Packet, Catalina. And Catalinas are actually still built there. So there was this whole, it's just kind of a little pocket that's these old classic plastic boats that were essentially built. They were built. A lot of them were built for charter. They were built to be comfortable down in the Caribbean. This was before catamarans were a huge thing, but they were built. So yeah, it's kind of a unique thing. They're all in that one little pocket. So it's
why do you suppose they all kind of congregated in that area?
I don't know, and it would go back to the very beginning, and I would love to know, and I'm sure
somebody might tell us who's listening.
The people. I mean, Charlie Morgan, Bob Johnson from Island Packet. There were all kinds of the original designers basically
Right.
were
Bill
living.
Bolin might be able to tell us about that.
I'm sure
You
he
know,
can. I'm sure.
yeah.
Hi,
You
Bill.
started smiling as soon as I said that name.
Yeah. He's one of my favorite people. So,
All
yeah.
right. I've, like I said, I've been actually listening to the book. It's available on Kindle or Audible.
Mhm.
Audible. It is available on Kindle too. And by the way, I have included a link in the description, whatever platform you're watching. We're on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 platforms right now live. Whatever platform you're watching, you can click on the link and purchase the book there.
Awesome.
It's a great listen or read, whatever you prefer. What was my question? Oh, okay. You spent a little time in Virginia before that's where you're from, and you spent a little time, you did move on, you guys moved on the boat and you didn't leave right away because you were getting the boat ready. And also one set of grandparents didn't really want you to go. Right?
Yeah, there was a whole myriad of reasons, and I think the biggest reason was that my parents didn't they were still very cautious, and they didn't want to leave the U.S. with an infant. They wanted to make sure that my sister and I were a little bit older, so we were 3 and 5. So I was 5, she was
Okay.
3 when we started actually cruising. We lived aboard before then. We were full-time live aboard, but 3 and 5 when we started cruising. So it was about 5 years before that they took to kind of gracefully and slowly exit from the land life. My dad was kind of winding down his legal practice, and there were a lot of things that getting the boat ready and getting is a lot of preparation. My parents are very big on preparation for things. They don't do many things, right, spur of the moment, which I'm a little bit worse at that. But
Well,
yeah.
so for people that want to do the same thing, what kind of things do you, just off the top of your head, needed to be taken care of before your dad would say, "Okay, I'm ready"? What?
Mhm.
Just a couple of examples.
And the main, so there are a couple of things, and again, these are memories that I have very distinctly. Obviously, first and foremost, there was exiting his legal career, and that's
Yeah.
it's not something you can just exit. So it's winding that down. But the education part of it,
Oh, yeah.
I remember my mom getting a big old grain grinder and grinding, wheat seeds into grain and making bread with it, and learning how to do that, and learning the boat. My parents were very aware that when we got out there weren't going to be mechanics that were just down the road that you could call. So there was a lot of learning, and I would say that's the biggest
So
reason that,
smart.
well, it doesn't take 5 years to learn everything, but that when they tell me that they have a
It
5 year,
would be for me to learn how to fix
it's
everything.
it's very, very smart of people to do that, at
Yeah.
least a year to learn everything, learn your boat, but it's, it was a little bit unusual to have waited for 5 years, but it was very intentional. So,
Yeah, and I guess that's why you were able to do it for so long, or your parents were able to.
yeah,
So it took about was it? It was like a month to get down to Florida?
yeah. I
And do you remember the stops you made or anything, or does that?
Oh yeah. Now I laugh about it. I've done, if back and forth, about 20 trips of the ICW in my life, Intercoastal Waterway. We did a lot of it inshore because we were still, my dad was still working. He was doing his writing at that point. So my mom and I would be on watch, and my dad would be down below on the computer writing his articles, and we couldn't go offshore because then it would be chaos. So we did a lot. We stayed inside the ICW quite a bit.
This
And
was probably about 84 or 85 or
yeah,
something.
yep, 84 was our first year. Um, but we could
Do you
have.
have a desktop on board?
Yes. Yes. We custom built a little desk in the aft cabin, and
Oh my gosh.
it was desktop then was very different from desktop now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But a lot of people went offshore, and it's a much quicker. I just did a boat delivery from St. Augustine up to Beaufort, North Carolina, and we went out. Took us overnight to get to Charleston, and then back out to Beaufort. So to do the majority of the ICW in 2 days or three, sorry, it was 4 days total. It was still like, wow, you could do that, because to me it is a month. In my mind, it's a month, and that's if you're going inshore. Those are decent days, 10-hour days. They're not short pit stops, but we would stay in different places where we knew people, and you stay and lick your wounds and fix whatever's broken and provision and all that.
It's a good shakedown, good shakedown period. Just kind of shake out whatever's gone wrong before you cross over the Gulf Stream. So do you remember crossing the Gulf Stream when you got down from Fort Lauderdale? Or no, it was Miami. It was Miami.
It would depend on what
Key Biscayne.
Yeah, it would depend on what's going on. It's I still think it's better off to cross as far south as you can, just because of the direction the Gulf Stream's flowing. Obviously, that has impact on on your crossing. But
right,
we crossed from Miami, we crossed from Key Biscayne, we crossed from Fort Lauderdale. I think only once we crossed as far up as Palm Beach, but Miami, Key Biscayne was sort of the primary. And I still love crossings. I haven't done a crossing. Oh my gosh, it's been almost 20 years since I've done an actual crossing. I've sailed there, I've sailed here, I've sailed up the ICW, but crossing the Gulf Stream is a very, very special thing. We have a friend she'll be coming from the Bahamas back to the States pretty soon, and my daughter and I may fly and cross with her. But I would rather my daughter's first crossing be from the U.S. to the Bahamas than from the Bahamas to the U.S., because there's just something awesome about having not seeing land for all that time, and then seeing, like, you see the clouds. And you guys, there's a lot of times people that have done bigger crossings. I have not done a transatlantic yet. I want to do that. That's very much very high up on my list. But the little Gulf Stream thing, you see the difference in the clouds. You start seeing the the Bahamian water. You just arriving there, it was so magical. Getting back,
and you guys didn't stop. You guys went all the way to Chub Key from Key Biscayne. Yep. You didn't stop in Bimini or anything.
We would anchor. So the normal thing that we did, either we anchored overnight around Bimini and Cat, but we didn't like to do that because the anchorages weren't incredible. But and then we would just go, out on the Bahama banks, and you're in miles and miles and miles of water that's 10, 20 or shallow and sand.
I've done it.
Yeah, you have, exactly. Yeah,
it was beautiful. It was so pretty.
Yeah.
Well, I've only done it once. I did cross the Gulf Stream by myself.
Nice.
And I remember thinking I was going to see the water moving really fast, north, but I didn't notice it moving.
Your boat moves really fast sideways. You don't notice the water.
But it was kind of more, let me get me in the pic. It was kind of more rolly,
You do. And it's really cool. Like we would know just by the, the size of the swells, and just, so that's a really special thing, and it's something I haven't done in a long time. I would rather do it from the U.S. back to the Bahamas for Marianne, my daughter, for her first time. But when the right time comes, we'll do it. It's right time and place.
Okay. And speaking of your daughter, so does she like to sail? Obviously, I guess sounds like she does.
She really does, and I've, the temptation to push it on her has been very big. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to ever, push a hobby on push a sport, whatever, on my child, because that really kind of makes them not want to do it. But she did sailing classes when she started at 5, just little sailing classes in St. Augustine. And um, learned quite a bit. And then when we moved, she and I moved on the boat. We had it was just me and her. We had bad grammar there, but she and I moved. But we moved from sold my house, moved from the house onto the island packet 35, and it was
Okay.
just the two of us, and it was such a wonderful time because that was when she really learned about not just sailing, but what it's like to be on a boat and to have that lifestyle. And she's going to school full time. She goes to a public school. I work full time at multiple different things, and so we couldn't take off and go cruising. I would love it. I'd still love it if we could. That's sort of the thing that I wish I could change the most in my life right now. But the learning that she did.
But she got to see the space of the confined. Like, you can't have everything on. You can't store everything. You got to choose. Oh, I don't need this. I don't need that.
And to learn how to be a crew member. That was the biggest things to me, to realize. She's very independent like me, so she wants to go off and do her thing. I want to do my thing, and how do we do our things together so that we actually are, a cohesive team crew. And she's become wonderful at it. So,
well, so when you were growing up and you were 5 when you left, and were you, at what point were you learning to sail and be crew member?
From the very beginning, and that was just, little things like sitting on Dad's lap and, holding the helm. It wasn't anything, serious, but, my parents, and it was the right, I firmly believe it was the right thing for them to do. They taught, learning was a very significant part of all of our adventure, all of our lives. They believed in teaching early. It was funny. My dad and I loved offshore passages. We'd kind of, that was their favorite thing to do. And I loved learning about it. And it's
here's you in the dinghy here, your little boat. In the book you talked about, that was like having your own car.
It was. It was. That was kind of like having a tricycle, that picture. But
okay. You're on the left here, and that's your sister. Is it Caroline?
Yeah, Caroline.
Caroline. Yeah. She's 2 years younger. So you guys were about 5 and 3, or
the first year we crossed over, we were 5 and 3.
And look at that blonde hair.
People mistake old photos of me for my daughter. It's so funny.
Yeah, I wasn't sure when I think I saw this picture on your Facebook page and it wasn't labeled, and I wasn't sure. I was like, it has to be them. And then here's you guys later.
So that in the background is the car. The last boat was the tricycle.
Oh, okay.
That's the car. It's an aluminum dinghy with a 15 horsepower Johnson outboard.
Oh my gosh.
We weren't allowed to go places, or weren't allowed to use the dinghy until we knew how to do, change the carburetor, or clean the carburetor, or do basic things. It's always carburetor stuff, so that's why I bring it up. But it's kind of like you can't drive a car till you know how to change the tires. It's the same.
Wow.
Same kind of principle. So that was a little bit further along. Freedom.
Yeah, and this is various anchorages, or just, well, I don't know if you were anchored right there on the left.
Well, and these are actually different boats. So the one on the far right is the Gulf Star 47, and that's at the lock in Great Bridge, Virginia.
Oh,
that's
okay.
the boat that we lived on from when I was born to when I was 18. But at that point, my parents wanted more space and, wanted just a bigger boat. So we bought the 53 and docked the boats next to each other and moved everything from one to the other, and cruised the Bahamas for a couple of years on the 53. So that was the latter, that was the, my time was mostly on the 47, but my sister, so.
And tell us what this one is real quick.
So this is actually in Annapolis, on one of the moorings during the boat show.
Okay.
Annapolis Boat Show has always been a special time. It's always been, sort of it's the beginning of the journey. It's the beginning of the year. It's where and
Right.
a lot of, all the cruisers stop there, meet each other, get together, make plans, and take off. But this was
Is that
actually
you on the left there?
it is, and this was actually taken by my good friend Cindy Wallet, who it's really cool when I see this photo. I think about, you talk about keeping in touch with people, but I think about meeting her when I was, 15, 16, and she's still a great friend and a really good photographer. so
Yeah,
so
that's a good. Is that how old were you there?
14. So
Okay. And is
yeah.
that your sister in the middle there?
Yes, it
And
is.
is that your mom on the
Yep.
right?
Yep. Mhm.
Okay. All
So
right. And well,
yeah.
that's your dad.
Yep. Very, very salty. I love that photo.
Yeah. It looks very serious.
Yeah, that's a
He's
great.
got some waves kicking up there in the background. And then is this his book?
Yep, that's his book, and yeah, he wrote that. Actually came out around the early '90s, and it was. I laugh with the people. I laugh at it because I always tell people we were so now there's the vloggers and YouTube and the generation before was the bloggers and then the generation before was like the actual writing and books, and so we were.
Yeah.
I tell people we're the YouTubers 3 generations ago.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So you were still cruising when he came out with this book,
yep, yeah, we were still cruising for.
funding the cruising.
Yeah, the book came out, I want to say 92. I could be wrong, but early
Oh,
90s.
okay. I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, so it was.
Hopefully you can still get. Now we're jumping ahead, but this is your boat when you were in college, right?
Mhm. Oh, in grad school. Yeah, this was my
Grad
in
school.
college. I actually lived in the dorms, which was a wonderful experience.
I bet. I bet that was a big change for you.
It was great. So,
So
but yeah.
you went to, we'll talk about that, but you were in grad school in Miami, right?
Mhm. Yep, living
Okay.
on that boat.
And I
So,
wanted to show your parents recent pictures of your parents.
yeah, well, that's
There
my
they are, the trailblazers.
it's me up front, then my mom, and then my dad, and can't see him real well, but yeah, that's a good a good photo of them and
And
the
whose
other.
boat was this?
So that's
Who's
actually my Island Packet 35. That was
Oh, okay. And how long ago was that boat did you
um
sell?
I bought it in the very end of 18 and sold it in 2022, I guess. So,
You probably
uh,
made some good money off that boat. I know what happened during that time.
you know, I I sold it for close to what I bought it for, and I I take care of my boats, at least I try. So it was never a money thing, and that was before COVID. Actually, no, it was after. Sorry, after COVID, but it was a strange time. So
Yeah. I bought my boat, well, the hurricane happened in September of 2020. 1 month later, I closed on another boat. I wasn't wasting any time. I was like, I cannot be without a boat. And that was, it was during COVID.
Mhm.
But I think it was right before the prices just went sailing up, so to
Yeah.
speak. Okay. So tell us, about, okay. So in the book, it sounded like you were by yourselves a lot.
Mhm.
Uh, and while you're going through the Bahamas until Georgetown. And I heard you say Chicken Harbor. There's people that I've said that to, and they go, "Huh, what?" But I've heard that for years, and that's funny. So your dad wasn't so crazy about Georgetown
No,
because so structured. It does sound a little structured,
it, it,
all the
it
activities and everything.
it's still I laugh. We were some of the chickens in Chicken Harbor because the idea was a lot of people planned on going further, and this is still the way it is. They plan on going further, and Georgetown area is so great that they stop and they're like, we're just going to hang out here, which is fantastic. It's an absolutely wonderful, beautiful place. But it was sort of I compare it to high school. It was every year you go back and meet the same or see the same cruising kids, meet new cruising kids, and get together on Volleyball Beach and sneak into the woods and make out and
Yeah.
have little bonfires and I think my name and another boy's name is still carved into a tree there near the volleyball.
Rod, but that's not his real name.
Yeah, no, Rod. Yeah, Rod, anyway.
Yeah, I just learned right before we went live that she changed some of the names. So I was saying a couple names. Yo, but that's not his real name. Oh, I didn't even think of that. Of course.
Yeah. So
yeah, I have heard a lot of. I read a book before I even before I got a boat, because I was trying to read everything I could put my hands on. And there was a young couple, their book I read, and they were totally turned off with Georgetown. And everybody was contacting them on the VHF and saying, come over and do this and come over. They're like, please leave us alone. This is what we're trying to get away from.
You can do that in the States. Exactly.
But a lot of people like really love it. They're into it.
And I think, for us, it was the reason that my sister and I loved it so much is because it was like the States. The reason that my dad didn't like it is because it was like the States. And, you cruise to get away.
He's trying to get away from it all. I get it.
But my
and
parents,
your mom was kind of so about it. She could take it or leave it. Or
exactly. Yeah. My parents were smart enough to know that they had to give us that bit of socialization and, get there to, for 2 months, 3 months out of the year, we could have our group of friends and go run wild.
Like your dad would say, we're staying here a week, but you knew that wasn't really true.
Yeah.
I've been listening to the book. It's really, you guys need to check it out. Again, it's in the description of whatever platform you're watching. I do want to get one thing out of the way and to introduce tonight's sponsor, which is me. In case you didn't know, I'm Tinsley Myrick, Remax of Orange Beach, and I sell Gulffront condos. Been doing it a long time, 21 years. We have the Myrick team, my husband and I, with Remax Orange Beach, and we know what we're doing, so give us a call. And also, if you enjoy this podcast, I have another one with another colleague on my team. We have the Getting Beachy podcast on Thursday nights, also live at 6 p.m., so come check it out. There we go. Thank you for allowing me to do that.
No,
got to pay the bills, right?
Well, it's funny. You sell homes and condos. I sell boats. So
yes. Go ahead and give us a plug. Go ahead and give us a plug.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
no, really, go ahead.
I started. Real quick, whatever the story behind it is that I had a corporate job for about 10 years, got married, had a kid, did the white picket fence thing. And then all like within the period of the year, my daughter was born in 2011. So about 2014, got divorced, got laid off from the corporate job because they closed all the locations, and it was, so I'm,
oh man,
I have my kid, and and her dad is very much in the picture, so he's he's great. But
how old is she?
She is 13 now.
Wow. That's where I am in the book. You're 13.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But
has she read the book? Has she read?
I think she's read more of it than she tells me she's read.
That is so funny. It's not cool to read your mom's book, right?
It's hiding. I was cracking up the other day actually because I went in her room in her little cubby that she hangs out in, and there's a copy of it right there.
Oh.
But yeah, no.
So she like took it off your bookshelf or something and took it in her room.
There's things that I may not want her to know, but she's going to find out those things eventually, and that's just part of growing up. So
everybody listening, check out the book. Okay, yeah. So go ahead. You sell boats now.
Yeah, so
you were working up to that.
Yeah. Divorced, laid off. What the heck do I do? Oh, I know about boats. I have all this like useless knowledge about boats. So maybe it's not so useless. And I started selling boats for Edwards Yacht Sales, and they were worked with Ray Edwards, and he's just a wonderful mentor. So I worked with them for about 5 years, and just sort of, built my following or whatever that way. Um, Being a broker is, you know how it works. You're on the road a lot. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I put about 45,000 miles on my car every year. Like it was intense, but my daughter was there with me. I used to, um, I'd be in a boatyard taking photos of a boat, and this is when she's like 5, and I'd turn around and there's another boat in the boatyard and a ladder, and Marianne's halfway up the ladder with her her phone that she's playing on, saying, "I'm going to sell the boat." I'm just, as far as giving me something to do that worked with being a mother. But then in 2020, I left Edwards and started my own company, Sunshine Cruising Yachts. Another good timing thing. We opened our doors February 5th, 2020. By March, the whole world was shut down, and I was terrified. And what did I do? I just spent my little bit of savings that I had and opened a company. And but it actually, after a few months of just kind of panic, what's going on? A lot of people were during COVID. They were watching YouTube. They were reading books. They were listening to podcasts. They were basically kind of
I was.
yeah, they're isolated, and they're like, oh, the boat's a great way to socially distance. So the market got really, really busy right after people were able to come out and move freely.
You have a little shout out here from Captain Sandbar here. Much love, Mel.
Hey,
I guess you know who that is,
I
right?
do. and I know why he's named Captain Sandbar, and has nothing to do with running aground on a sandbar.
Okay, all right. Well, Captain Sandbar will have to come on to the podcast and tell us about that if you can't tell us.
He'd be great on here.
Thank you, Captain Sandbar, for commenting. Anybody else, please comment. We got 16 people watching right now.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so yes, I was on my boat during the pandemic, and it was very stressful in real estate because we had the hurricane, we had the pandemic and the hurricane in 1 year.
Yep.
And we had a bunch of damaged property, but so each transaction was like the work of 5. But I was able to go on. Florida was open. So I was down there as much as I could on my boat.
Yeah.
So anyway, everybody was buying boats, including me.
And it's, the interesting part of it now is that the boat market is kind of, I don't want to talk about business stuff, but the boat market is kind of normalized. There are a lot of great boats on the market now because these people who bought boats put a lot of money into their boats and, went cruising for a couple of years and figured out that, well, this isn't for me, but I just put, 80 grand into sails and canvas and paint and, whatever. So those boats are being sold.
Is this your daughter? Best boat woman ever, your daughter?
I guess so.
What's your name, though?
She's on with my mom's.
Oh, okay. All right.
Mom. Yeah, she's on with my mom's.
And her name is Marianne, right?
I didn't know they were watching. They're literally in the next room.
That is so cool. Hey, I'm glad they're watching. I forgot your mom's name, but hey, Mom, I'm reading the story, so that is so cool. And we got Cindy, just found out you were alive. You rock. I'm so lucky to have you in my tribe. Boy, there's a lot of people here. We love you, Melanie. Yahtzee.
I wonder if Cindy was on when I showed her photo. That's the same.
I don't know. She just tell her we just showed a photo that you took in Annapolis, and then then we have Angel. Hi.
Oh, hi.
And Angel says Melanie rocks. Oh my gosh, love you watching in St. Augustine. You got a lot of fans.
They're friends. But
are any of these the boat kids?
Actually, none of them were people who grew up on the boat, but a lot of them are people that I have know from working in the industry. Captain Sandbar is one of my yacht brokers who works for me, and
cool.
they're, that's what I love about this industry. It's so small, even though it's spread out, geographically. It's the Annapolis Boat Show is a family reunion to me. I go and
Yeah,
walk
I've
around the
been
show.
once.
Yeah, and everybody should go. But walk
Cindy
around
says,
the
cool, I missed that. I'll backtrack and watch
show.
again later. Uh-oh, here's another one. She's been my idol since 2001. After reading her book, she gave me my start in the marine industry. That's Ann Decker. Thank you, Ann.
Very, very
So,
sweet. Thank you, Ann.
you know all these people, right?
Yep.
Everybody
Yeah,
subscribe.
I
Tell them
cheated.
all to subscribe.
Told people I was going on, but hey.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Please ask them to
Yeah.
subscribe to the
Yeah.
Salty Abandon and the Salty Podcast.
Yeah, for
Please
sure.
go ahead and like that video and subscribe. Okay, so where were we?
I don't remember.
Oh, you started selling boats.
Oh, yep. And so it was. I still own Sunshine Cruising Yachts. We still do business everywhere. We have brokers all over the place, but we're still a very small company, and most of who we cater to, just because of my background, is cruisers and people with kids that somebody will call us and say, I'm getting ready to sail around the world with my family. Can you help me find a boat?
Can I help you?
It's just the greatest thing ever, because then you get to talk to them about, well, you need a certain amount of staterooms for your kids, and where are they going to be homeschooled, and where are they going to, so there's that's sort of become our kind of core customer.
Oh my gosh! I mean, they find all that out. I'm sure what a gold mine. They called you.
Many of them become friends too. That's another thing that I love. It's just like I said, you and I have never talked face to face, but we have tons of mutual friends, and
yeah. So that you mentioned in the book about the schooling, the program. I've had somebody on before that has a family, and they were telling, I can't remember the name of the program. Is that program still available?
So that one is not. That was Calvert School. I don't know if it goes down, but it's interesting. And I when I meet like Cindy's kids, or meet boat kids now, it is so different. They can take their exams. They have a lot of states have very good homeschool programs. Florida does. It's a much more accepted thing now. Back then it was kind of like, oh, you're weird, you're homeschooling your kids. Are they getting a good education? Blah, blah, blah. But it's, it's all online. We used to, I tell boat kids now that, we used to do an exam and put it in the mail. It would go on the mailboat from Staniel Key to Nassau, maybe go on a plane from Nassau to the States, and then hopefully get to school, and then reverse the process, and you get your grades. So we're waiting a day or two for your grade. We'd wait a month, and but it was always fun when the mail could.
And now they just take everything online.
Yeah, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful that people can do this online, and it makes it a lot more achievable for families to get out there. It's absolutely wonderful. So.
Yeah, a lot of people have just decided to do that because they think they're going to get a better education by homeschooling. But you mentioned a lot in the book about the land kids bullying you. The land kids, is that what you call them?
Kids are kids, and they're going to do their kid thing no matter who they are. And
the land kids.
Well, it's funny because I think if I'd been in a regular high school, it would have been band kids versus football kids, or whatever.
It was like that. Yeah.
So the land kids were the ones we would see during the summer, and they were just good friends. They've turned out to be good friends, but they were just always kind of like, they couldn't relate to us. That's what it was. We couldn't relate to them. They couldn't relate to us. And we would try as hard as we could. And there were a lot of things that we did connect on. But, if you're different, you're an easy target for bullying. And, bullying's fun. I'm just kidding.
If you're on one side of it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, yeah. So for those who haven't read it, you were at this, the Narrows Marina in Virginia in the summer and during hurricane season, and the kids that had power boats there, or maybe even a sailboat. I don't know. They would come there on the weekends. And that's where you came in contact with the land kids. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. And it was really great that my parents realized that we needed that in our lives too. It wasn't, Bahamas in the winter, homeschool kids, summer, meet the land, hang out with the land kids. And, we needed that to learn about culture. And, I'm a huge, huge music buff. I don't play any instruments. I don't sing, but getting back to the States and learning, what's the popular new music? What's the top 40? Oh my gosh, let me learn that really quick so that when I talk to the land kids, I can have something to relate to them about. And it's funny music. Yeah,
there was fashion that you had to get caught up on. There was all kinds of pop culture stuff.
Yeah, 17 magazine. Okay, the shopping list when you got back to the States as a boat kid back then was 17 magazine, YM, Haagen-Dazs ice cream, and that's pretty much it. Those are the things. But and then I knew radio stations all up and down the East Coast, so I'd be like, okay, when I'm in Beaufort, I'm going to listen to this station. Anyway,
because this was pre-internet, so I mean, kids can't even imagine today. When you're in the Bahamas today, you can keep up with all your friends. You can what the music is. You're downloading. You're checking out what's the fashion. It was a totally different time. So that is just so cool.
Go
ahead.
I think it's beautiful that the boat kids now, being that it is a different time, they have the opportunity to feel a little bit more connected, and they enjoy doing the cruising thing more. So that connection is good.
But would you trade it?
Nope. Not a nation. I wouldn't trade it. I would absolutely love to be doing the same thing with my daughter.
Right now.
It's just, right now it's just not in the cards for a lot of reasons, but we do. We went, a couple of years ago, we went and stayed for 2 weeks on a friend's boat in the Exumas. And we, that's the great thing about being a yacht broker. I have friends with boats everywhere. So I know that there are places that I could, call and be like, hey, Suki, I'm coming there for 2 weeks, and show up.
Yeah. You just keep up where they are and you can just go there.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's like Blaine Parks. He's like, I don't need to have a boat,
No, he doesn't. He's on a different one I would say every week. He's probably on 2 different boats every week.
Right. And they're usually really nice island packets, right?
Yep. Blaine's the man.
He was on here on the podcast.
I'm going to have to go back and watch some of these episodes because it's
it's a who's who in the, you'll know all of them.
I'm excited to
Hayden and Radine, which I'm going to have them back because now that they're back near you, where you are right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure where they are right now, but
they came home and I'm letting them get settled, but I want them to this time. I talked to them when they were in St. Martin.
Mm-hmm.
And so I told them the next time they come on, which wasn't that long ago, but people will really like to hear about the anchorages, about the different, where's the good places to stay. They want to save money on, all those expensive marinas down there. Yeah. Where are the great places to anchor? So I've asked them to come on and really talk about that. So you have to stay tuned for that.
Yes. And what's interesting about that? The anchorages haven't changed. They're still the same anchorages, but you learn about them on the internet now and learn about them through, just learn about them.
Well, you'll have to come on and really talk about the anchorages next time. Oh, here's somebody else that knows you.
I need to be in more anchorages. Hi, Joe.
Yeah. Okay. So who's Joe, by the way? Who's Joe?
Oh, Joe's one of my friends from Green Cove Springs. We're in at St. Augustine. Green Cove Springs is a huge destination. Sure, a lot of a huge destination for storage and stuff for cruising sailboats. So I've got a lot.
Okay. Is that near St. Augustine or where is that?
It is. It's up the St. Johns River. So it's a 2-day run by boat just from St. Augustine, but about a 45-minute drive. And they have a just sort of, iconic storage boatyard, do-it-yourself boatyard. I say iconic. It really is. it's been a cruising destination for people forever and ever.
So for people that live up north, they just come and store their boats there.
Yep.
Okay.
They store their boat, and then, right before they're ready to head south, they move the boat from the storage area to the work area, and they can paint the bottom and do all the work and get the boat ready to go, and do the same. It's a cool system. So
it's a good experience. Yeah. Thank you, Joe, for commenting. All right. Already asked you that. So what happened when you were 18? I was thinking maybe that you moved away, or you went to college or something, but your parents got another boat. You got the bigger boat. But were you like, get me out of here? What was your thought process?
I was not eager to move out, and mainly because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I mean, I had, at that point in my life, it was sort of follow the, Tanya Abbey, Robin Lee Graham, my childhood idols, and follow them, get a sailboat, start sailing around the world, or it was, do a more traditional thing and go to college. So it was very much a divide at that point in my life. And
join the podcast. Mel is the best. Thank you, Captain 0125.
So I actually stayed aboard for a year after finishing high school, and of all things, studied naval architecture for a year.
Wow.
I sucked at it, but I like drawing boats, and it was actually a great thing to do. It was with there was a school called West Lawn, which was a correspondence school for naval architects. So I did that for a year, and then realized there was a lot of math in that. So, so then ended up, but that was my 18th year. So that was after high school. And so I stuck around for a while, and then moved off and lived in Fort Lauderdale and worked in a restaurant and in a bookstore. And,
so tell me about that. You moved up. What were you like? Okay, I need to get off. I need to get away from my family. Is that, there's no shame in that.
No, it's normal.
I mean, it was close quarters, right?
I don't want to think about my daughter doing that, but yeah. Yeah.
Well, you live in a house, right?
Exactly. She can stay as long as she wants. She knows that. Yeah.
So you thought, okay, I'm going to go check out what the regular folks do and go live in a apartment or something.
Yeah, it was, I still wasn't sure if I wanted to commit to going to college. And so I advise people to do this. If you don't know what you want to do, don't go. But I took my sort of gap year, or whatever they call it, living in Fort Lauderdale. And Fort Lauderdale is a great place for a boat kid to move off the boat. It's also a really scary place for a boat kid to move off the boat, because it's where all the crew for the large yachts are. It's where there's so much partying, and there was a lot to do, and it was great, but I got my first car there.
Did you know how to drive?
I actually did.
Because you had the car back home.
So yeah,
because you had the car in Virginia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
okay.
I learned on that. There are people out there that would argue that I've never really learned. but
well, so that show Below Deck. All those folks, all those young people, they're around that. They live around in that area. Mm-hmm. So you could have gone in that direction, mm-hmm. couldn't you?
Yeah.
Did you ever think about that?
I'm honestly not sure why I didn't, because it was a very viable, I was ended up, I already had my captain's license at that point, but I'd probably be captain of a, mega yacht right now if I'd stayed, if I'd gone that direction. But I can't even tell you what it is that made me didn't want to, but I didn't want to. Or maybe didn't want to, maybe not want to. But I didn't.
You didn't want to get back on a boat, I guess.
Well, I would love to get back on a boat, but I think.
Back then you were.
Well, you have no control of your schedule when you're working in the mega yacht industry.
Not much sleep.
Yeah. And you're on the boat and you're going wherever they want you to go. And, and it's a great thing for people to do. You save money, your lodging and food and everything is paid for. It's a really wonderful thing for young people to do. But I just wasn't interested.
Okay.
Most of
All
those
right.
yachts didn't have sails, okay?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have below deck sailing now, but
Mhm. Yeah.
so after the year, you said you were working where?
Um,
You when in that year?
yeah, I worked at a nautical bookstore called Blue Water Books and Charts, which isn't around. They still have a warehouse, but they're not really around anymore, like a lot of bookstores. And worked at a restaurant on the ICW. And one of the reasons I didn't do very well as a server, I think everybody should work as a server and work in retail at some point in their lives. But
Yeah.
one of the reasons I wasn't very great, A, I'm clumsy. B, there was a dock that was on the ICW. So I'd be like, oh, there's a boat coming in. I'm going to go help them. Okay, those people's their food's going to get cold, but I'm going to go help the boat.
Let me go help them tie up.
Yeah, I quit after like 2 months, and it just, you know. So and that experience that year, realizing how much money it actually did take to live, and that my jobs were not something that was ever gonna get me, provide a future for me. That was when I decided to go to college and do the whole academic thing.
Okay, before we go there, I would like to go back to the story about when you guys were leaving the Bahamas to head back to the States, and you passed what you thought was what was some drug
Mhm.
folks. You want to?
Yeah.
Can you tell that story real quick?
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it sounds so sensational to people, but it was a totally
No.
normal thing. And it was, you hear Florida is, square groupers and, all that stuff. I mean, it was a very, very
I
big
mean,
part of
Miami Vice was in the mid
it.
'80s, and this is after that, right? This
Well, and
is
if you've seen the
was
movie
about the same
Blow,
time.
yeah, Blow with Johnny Depp. I mean, that's all cocaine cowboys. There's some
Mhm.
really movies about it, but
Yeah.
um, you're always worried about being mistaken for somebody that was actually smuggling
Yeah.
drugs, even though, you know, you very obviously weren't. The boat, next, a couple miles away from you may have been. And so being boarded by customs and the Coast Guard, when you came back into the States was a very normal thing. And they'd bring dogs aboard. They'd go through and, just check everything. Because people were bringing stuff back and forth from the Bahamas in slow sailboats, in speedboats, in planes.
Yeah.
It was, but at that
Yeah.
point, there had been a drop. So somebody had dropped whatever from a plane nearby, and
And this was at night when you were passing.
it's a night, just getting into the Gulf Stream, so pitch dark, and so they thought we were the ones picking it up. So
Well, but what you passed first was a boat without their lights on,
mhm,
and they were shining a light in the water. So
looking
what
for
you guys thought it was someone had made the drop and they're going and picking it
yeah,
up.
yeah, and
And your dad, your mom turned off all the lights. It's
mhm,
like, let's just get by real as quiet as we can.
yeah, which is definitely the right thing to do in that
Mhm.
situation, but. It's crazy to think about it now, but yeah, they came up with no lights. They boarded us, brought the dogs aboard. I was, I don't know, 7 at that point, and sleeping up in the V berth, and look up, and oh my God, there's a German Shepherd, and there's a border
A
patrol guy.
gentleman on the boat. Yeah.
Yeah. But they came up and they jumped, unlit, and jumped aboard, and there was a moment there when my parents were like, "This is it." We saw something we shouldn't have seen. Their pirates were very real then. They are very real now. There's
Hmm.
just, and I'm sure a lot of you, know about the recent situation in Grenada where the couple got
I
killed
don't
aboard.
know about that. Oh, I'll have to.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
very,
Really?
very, very sad, um, but as wonderful and happy and as the cruising life can be, there's still bad people out there, and you've got to at least be aware, be situationally aware, and just yeah.
Yeah, so it was DEA that boarded you, right?
Mhm. Yep.
And your dad and your mom weren't sure who it was. They were coming up behind you
Yeah.
without lights on, so you
Yeah.
weren't sure what was happening. Like, is it pirates or is
Oh
it?
yeah.
and
Yeah.
then ended up being DEA, but it was a very scary thing. And
But there's that moment of, this is it, you know, and
yeah, he didn't know what to do. Should
yeah,
he?
yeah,
And so Captain Sandbar says still very real, especially
yes,
in Bimini.
yeah.
They traffic humans.
There's
Yeah,
there's so much more going on than what we
yeah.
think. So it's, yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a lot
And
of human
then just
trafficking.
finally with that story, when you guys got in
Mhm,
close to that, you saw that you were coming into an inlet, and there was
mhm.
the 3 different
Yeah,
authority boats out there, and he had you
so
sit outside waving to him, letting, we're just a family.
we did that every time we came into an inlet. We had to dress nicely, sit up on deck, you know, do
Yeah.
the whole wave, and which I would make my kid do that too.
Yeah,
See me
because
in the ear.
I guess they saw you on radar coming
Mhm.
past that boat that they
Yeah,
had caught, and so they
exactly.
thought you were
Yeah,
okay.
exactly. They thought we were
Oh, that was
boatgoers.
such a good story. So you got, okay, there's the boat girl link in the description below if you wanna get the book.
If you wanna get really bored.
No, 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 no. Okay, so, after you're like, "Okay, I guess I need to go to college,"
Mhm.
right? So what happened then?
Started taking out student loans and then more student loans, and now that's part of it. But now
Yeah.
I went to Eckhart College, wonderful school, private college over in St. Pete, Florida. I chose the school because they were right on the water, and I thought I could buy a boat, live on the boat, and dinghy into class. That was
That
but it
would've
was a
been
great school.
awesome.
I was lucky. That was why I chose the school, but it's absolutely wonderful, private school. And I, um, obviously, had scholarships and grants and student loans and all that stuff. But I lived in the dorms, and I'm so glad I did. I had that experience. Um, but then I graduated because I had taken some college level classes in high school, through correspondence
Oh,
school. I graduated a year early, and
mm.
which is good because I started a year late, graduated a year early. It all worked out.
Okay.
Yeah, and at that point was very, very caught up, and I still am. I still love it, but very caught up in the whole creative writing, fine arts world. I wanted to write. I grew up reading books. That was my entertainment. I grew up reading books. I grew up making up stories. I grew up writing poems. That was just sort of it to me. So I decided to go to an MFA, Master of Fine Arts. I went to the program at FIU out in Miami, and I did live on the boat at that point, that Columbia 28 that we saw
Yeah, the
earlier.
1969 Columbia 28 that
Yep,
was showed in the picture earlier.
yep. So
Yeah.
that was my dorm while I was in grad school, and wonderful year, crazy time because I'm at this weird old marina with it's a lot of weirdness going on. You again talk about like throwbacks from the old Florida days, but
What marina was it?
it doesn't have
I've
good
stayed
one.
at Dinner Key Marina. I know that
Yeah,
one. It was huge. That's a huge one.
it was in North Miami, and it's all condos now, but it was in North
Okay.
Miami. It was called Mall, like your tiger mauling somebody. um,
Okay.
and it was just a inexpensive, fun little weird liveaboard community. And I was the youngest person there, and which is kind of cool. People looked after me, and I'd come from class, and they'd be like, "Oh, here, I made a casserole. Do you want some food? Oh, here's a rum and coke," or whatever. So, um, just a wonderful experience. But that was
I bet they loved your stories.
I loved their stories. That was the thing, because they again had been through a lot of things that I hadn't been, and been in Miami in the 80s, while I've been
Oh, yeah.
passing back and forth. A lot of the people at that marina were,
Okay.
it was interesting. But yeah, I liked their stories. I think I tried to listen to their stories more than I tried to tell mine. So
Did any of them write books?
I don't think anybody from that group has. Yeah, I would love it if they did.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So what happened after graduate school?
Um, work. So I went back to Blue Water Books and Charts, the place where I'd worked right when I moved off, in
In
more of
Fort
a
Lauderdale.
and more of a professional, aspect. I was their event coordinator and doing boat shows and bringing in visiting writers, and which was wonderful because I got to meet a lot of great people. But I did that, and then that was the last thing sort of marine related until I got essentially recruited by a large for-profit art school, which was a really learning period of my life. It was the right place for me to be at that time. I worked.
What year are we talking here?
2005.
Okay.
So yeah, so worked my way up. Climbed the corporate ladder very quickly for about 10 years, and that was what brought me from Fort Lauderdale to Jacksonville. I got a promotion, and it was one of those for-profit art schools that did a lot of wonderful things, but did a lot of, part of my job was helping people find jobs. And anyway, so that was where, when they closed down, I got laid off and divorced and all that. So that was come full circle.
That at once. Yeah. And that's 2000.
So I started
15, 16.
Yeah, started there in 2005 and ended about 2015. So good.
So this is about the time you say, I'm going to write a book, or I'm finishing writing the book, or?
I had actually, the book, like I said, it was so long ago. I mean, 2000, it came out in 2012. I'm almost like, when I do things like this, I need to write something new. Why are we talking about my same old book? I want to write something new.
Because it's still awesome. I just discovered it. So
no, I had actually written it while I was in grad school, because I got a MFA in creative writing. It was my thesis from grad school. It was good enough to get me graduated, get me moved on. It was not good enough to be published. And I had connections. I thought for sure I had a lot of possibilities, and knew the right people just from being in that grad school program for a while. And so I just sat on it it had gone through 3 drafts at that point. It was like, yeah, whatever, I need to actually make money, so did that whole thing. And then an acquaintance who's become a good friend of mine said, that I knew from writers conferences and stuff like that, said, hey, I'm opening up a publishing company, an indie press, and I know you have a book. Let's talk about it. So I ended up.
Well, it's on a lot of different websites, a lot of book websites.
Yeah, it's they're a good press. They're still around. It's not it's not a self-published book. It's but it's a very small independent press. And that's the great thing about just, print on demand and, audio and all that digital. I mean, it's, books can stay around longer. But I went through about 10 more revisions of it, and a lot of painful stuff, a lot of wonderful stuff, a lot of asking people, hey, can I write about this? Should I change your name? So that was a really sort of cathartic, crazy experience. And then got it published, went to boat shows and marketed it and did a bunch of readings. And, it's still, it did well for what it was. I need to write a new book. I'm not going to say I'm tired of talking about this one, but I feel like a sellout, because I feel like I really should write. So why am I still talking about a book from so long ago? I really need to write something, but time.
But it's still such a great story, though. I mean, first of all, it's a time, like before GPS, when you guys left. I mean, there's so many good, cool things about it, things that have changed that just, I think it's more relevant than ever. I told you that. And more people are wanting, I feel like sailing's making a comeback. It kind of died off, and with the internet, so many people have become interested in it.
And it's interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So it's interesting too that it is easier for families to do it now because of the internet, because they can homeschool, I love seeing that. I love, I'm on all the Facebook groups with kids on board, and it's it's really wonderful to me to see it be so accessible for a lot of
Right.
people. I do, last year I did Cruisers University at the Annapolis Boat Show. Had a seminar there, and there's still people that are doing the exact same thing. They're communicating about it differently, and there's some differences, but they do the exact same
It's
thing.
easier to share the experience.
Mhm.
I had a guy on 3 weeks ago, a guy that teaches celestial navigation,
Cool.
and he said, I said, why do sailors today? Why is it relevant for sailors today? And he said, it's just like you said. He said it's more relevant. I mean, it's so easy. It's more accessible to people than ever before. Sailing. But then and he told all the reasons why. And then he said, but there have been, and he gave specific situations where people used it when everything else was like the batteries got flooded and they lost everything, all the electronics, and they were able to navigate their way to wherever. So even some of the old ways, like they don't even print charts anymore, but you still have I have my captain's license too. And you still have to pass that test, don't you?
Yep.
Chart plotting.
I take paper charts with me. I have the chart by CW chart books and chart kits. Yeah, except when I did the delivery a couple weeks ago, showed up with my paper charts, and I'm like, I know we have navionics, we have this and this and this, but I just feel better with paper charts on the boat.
Yeah, that's your old school upbringing right there. That's great. So Captain Sandbar says celestial navigation is actually still mandatory for above 200 gross ton captains. And
he's right.
And he also said, I really want to write my first book. I suck at writing though. With all the programs out there now, I wonder if it's easier to do it now. Get a little chat GPT going.
Yeah, I'm actually working on a book right now about how to buy boats. So, which is, more of a technical thing. But the cool thing is that it's easier once you write the book, it's easier to get it out there. 10 years ago, I was like self-publishing. No, ew, gross. Nobody self-publishes. And that was my, sort of what I took away from grad school and being, I wouldn't trade the experience for anything, but there were a lot of like old school, smoke a cigar in the corner, like, Hemingway. And it was great. I loved it. But
you have so much to share about how it was and now how it is. So the Captain 0125 says, try Boat Girl to Boat Broker, Captain Steve L. That's a good book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Boat Girl to Boat Broker.
Stories I'm not sure I'd want to tell in that one.
All right. Well, let's see. We've been on here for just over an hour. You mentioned something before we went live. Project on the horizon. What were you referring to?
Well, I have a lot. I always have a lot of projects, but like I said, I am working on a book now, which is more of a how to, and I've got, we've got a publisher, got everything lined up, but it's how to buy a boat, and it's going to be interesting writing it because that process is changing. It's a whole different area, but the process of and real estate too, like this, it's the world has changed dramatically in the past couple of years. So I'm actually a little bit worried about being able to write it and keep it, up to date, but wish me luck because I really need to get going on it. I'm pretty far behind. So,
well, what about a YouTube channel where people pay for subscription so they can stay up to date? I've an idea.
I've always thought about doing that, and I would love to do it. I suck at video editing, and it's just I know how much work. I'm not afraid of work, but I know how much work goes into a YouTube channel. I know that these YouTubers.
Well, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like it doesn't have to be, production doesn't have to be 100%. It's you that, you just got a good camera and a microphone and
better done than perfect.
Your face, your knowledge, boom, done.
But,
something to think about.
Yeah.
So do you have a boat project in the works?
Oh, yeah. I always have some sort of boat project.
I'm
Oh yeah, that. So,
on the edge of my seat. I can't wait to hear this.
yeah, I lived last boat that I lived aboard was a Irwin 43. It's another one of those Florida built boats, right? I have an affinity
Oh,
for those Island Packet, Irwin, Morgan, Catalina, that genre. So it was an old Irwin 43. It was a great boat to have a teenage girl on, not what I wanted to go cruising on long term. And just at this point, I'm like, I'd rather put my money into a mortgage than put it into new sales when I'm not going to go sailing, or put it into. So I bought a house, boatless for a while. And then a very, very good friend of mine just sort of entrusted me. It's kind of a weird, entrusted me with restoration of her Ingrid 38. And it's just a beautiful double ender, just actually the kind of boat I saw myself in next. Seaworthy, it's a great boat, but it needs
you are restoring it.
Along with somebody else, I'm restoring it, and we painted it and gotten it in the water, but there's tons of rotten decks, and it's gonna be a good 5-year restoration. But I have something. I know I have a boat to work on. I'm not just living life. I
have a lot of admiration for you to be able to do all that. I mean, I just wouldn't know where to start,
I don't do any of it well. I do a lot. I don't do it well. So
that's fantastic. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on. And I feel like I'd like to have you back and talk about anchorages or something, boat you have for sale, or
anytime.
Bring on one of your boat kid friends or something.
Yeah. I definitely, I'd love that. And I know a lot of, I don't know, you're in this area too, but women in the marine industry, getting women into the marine industry is a huge thing for me. So it's an industry that's still 98% male, and there are those of us that are female captains, and that have been. So that's.
Well, this what I tell people, and I've told this to Leslie, because she's got you and a list of other women sailors that could take her out, because she just needs to get out there and do it. Is just get out there and do it, right?
On a brand new Island Packet.
Yeah, she's probably got a bunch of boats she could go out on. And I told her, if you bump the dock, you have a whole factory to fix it. Right.
You never go any faster than what you're comfortable bumping the dock at.
Right.
What fenders are for. That's what,
That's right. And you just have to just do it. And it's scary the first couple times, or 15th time, whatever, because all the conditions are different every time. So
scary. I still have a pitter patter in my heart when I back a boat out of the slip, or
sure,
whatever.
Especially when it's windy. Yeah.
That's but it's good. It's an interesting.
Just do it, right?
Yep.
All right. Well, Melanie, this has been a pleasure. Please tell your parents hello, and your sister.
Hello.
I'm reading all about them, so I feel like I know them already. But thank you so much. And on this channel, this is how I go out. I say, salty abandon out.